Season 3, Episode 5. It's a beautiful, warm, springish day here in Wisconsin. The snow is thawing and the birds are really loud outside. And with me today on the Sage Sayers, I have Austin Sussel. He's a Fortune 100, 500 global account manager. And he has a very varied background like I do and lots of other careers too. Austin, welcome to the Sage Sayers.
Debbie, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm really excited you're here too. So we're colleagues, we're friends. We were trying to figure out how to pave the way for how we know each other. Colleagues, friends, and we coach each other too. That's about it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Well said.
Yeah. Well, it's been really great talking through what we're going to talk about today. And we decided it's going to be completely ad hoc and unscripted as always, but with a couple of themes. And it's starting with, well, actually, where do you want to take us, Austin? You take it over.
Debbie, I want to start with you. I want to ask you a couple of questions first, I think the audience should understand you a little bit better. Just I've had the pleasure of getting to know you. I think everyone else should as well. I wanted to start first at the very basics and ask you, what is an MCC coach?
Oh, thank you. Well, can I give a little context on why you're even asking?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so last Wednesday, I certified with the International Coaching Federation, the world's largest nonprofit group for certified coaches, as a master certified coach. And it felt like a moonshot that it came true because it was really, really hard. And a lot of coaches try to reach that level and fail. And I just assumed I'd be one of the many needing to take a lot of attempts. But I actually did certify at that level last Wednesday. I am now in the top 4% of ICF certified, certified coaches. And what it means is at that top level, you have coached a minimum of 2,500 coaching hours. You have received a minimum of 200 training hours. You've received a minimum of, I think it's 20 mentor coaching hours. I'll have to confirm that, but it's certain. No, it was 10, but I went a bit cuckoo and got about 21 of those too. And the hardest part about certifying at that level is partly the fee. It's not cheap to submit. And of course, those hours, but also the way that the ICF evaluates and then passes the ICF MCC coaches is you need to send two evaluations, two recorded coaching calls with your coachee's consent. And evaluators will evaluate those calls based on the 8 core competencies that they want to see you truly mastering. And that's what makes it so hard to pass the performative piece of it. It's really tough. And then there's the final exam, which again, I found really hard. I barely passed it. It's online. It's testing your knowledge of core competencies. It takes 3 hours. I barely finished on time, but I passed that too. So I'm in the top 4% of ICF coaches now.
That's amazing. Congratulations. And full circle, mommy, because I remember when you first told me I submitted my application and how just excited you were, but I know how much work that's taken. And I think it's important too, because I feel like there's so many people that are constantly relocating on a global scale that forget like your coach can go with you, especially when you're internationally certified. So that is well done. Amazing.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's taught me a lot. It's made me value a lot of things, including one of the topics that we were going to touch on today, and that was silence and comfort with silence. So, a little context on why that's so interesting to me. One of the many reasons I thought I could not certify as a master certified coach was because I'm really chatty and I'm very, very creative. And you probably know from our coaching swaps that I am a big ideator as well. Well, and
Yes.
that's fine. Coaches love it with a chatty coach who pours in ideas with them, and we have these volleyball kind of games, co-creating ideas together. The problem is that's not what the ICF is looking for when they're trying to certify you as a master certifying coach. They are looking for a coach who speaks far less than the coachee, at
Hmm.
least 20% to the coachee's 80%. They are looking for a coach who does not ideate by inserting their ideas. They ideate by creating space for the coachee to ideate their own and encouraging. But they're
Yes.
also looking, among many other things, for that comfort with silence and pause. And that's where I really grew through this MCC certification process, which took me 2 years. And it's the theme of my other coach show, Competency Number Five, because it really required stilling the mind down enough
Mhm.
to be comfortable with pause. And most of us aren't. Are you the same, Austin? How do you feel with pause and silence?
I've struggled with it, and I can resonate with you very much because even in my leadership roles, I was always taught early on that you're asking questions, you're coming in with questions for that person that you're working with to help them get there on their own. Just similar to coaching, you're asking questions and utilizing that pause. I used to be someone that was very uncomfortable with pauses. I felt like I had to fill in the gap. I think some of that goes back to childhood. I think it goes back to our social interactions, but it is, I know a lot of people that I've spoken to about this, it's a struggle having that pause. Do you feel
Yeah,
the same from what you've seen?
absolutely, I do. And one small blessing was that I lived and grew up, I lived in Japan in my early 20s from age 20
Mhm.
to 26. And that was one culture that first exposed me to strategic pause and this idea that pause and silence and conversation can actually be very spacious and empowering. And actually, in
Yes.
Japanese work culture, where my last job, I was the only foreigner in an all Japanese company as a
Mhm.
translator and executive secretary for the top three executives in that firm. And there was an American subsidiary. So they needed a Westerner to come in and, or an English speaker at least, to be a liaison between the two countries and cultures. So one thing I noticed a lot in that experience was Japanese professionals will use pause to signal that we are thinking. And it's
Uh,
expected to be silent until the person with the most power in the room speaks first. Isn't that wild?
wow, that's so different than the American culture too. I feel like it's usually everyone's going at it and you're just, trying to catch your breath and hear what everyone is trying to, bring to the table. That's so different.
It is so different. And coaching certainly helped remind me of that experience and try to sort of as a self betterment understand, why am I talking? And when I am talking, is it for me or is it for the client? Is it for me to try to solve their problem? And if I am talking to try to solve their problem, is that my job as coach? ICF would say, no, not at
Yeah.
all. When you're a certified coach, it's not your job to solve a client's problem. They have the answers. It's our job to create the space for them to really get into the woods and get into their deepest creativity, their deepest hope, their deepest ambitions and problem solve, but encourage it through mirroring back what they said or, and in the one, and so I was very, that was probably the biggest frustration for me, I think, is listening to the recordings, which is part of your, what you need to do when you're trying to certify at that level,
Mhm.
transcribing them and seeing the percentages, but also being really honest and vulnerable with yourself. Like, okay, it's okay. 70% talking's not bad. I know I can do better. But when I'm talking, what would help me pause for longer? And that was my creative problem. And in the end, I found it was
Mm.
trust. It was trust and building, not inserting something into that pause that had anything to do with me, just learning to love it, which sounds cringy,
Yes.
right? What about,
Yes.
yeah. So
I
when you feel that squirminess, which I still do, what are you inserting into that pause?
I love this question because I feel like as us just as human nature, especially as like I know American culture, it's always inserting your opinion. How can you relate and show that you relate to this theme, this problem? But I think what I found helpful is taking a step back and pausing and getting curious. Asking a question that might validate what I'm thinking or maybe assuming, but remembering to stay curious is so important. And I think in that pause, listening to make sure you're understanding what they're sharing and then asking a follow-up question to possibly get more context that you might need, or at least, confirm what you're feeling or thinking that they're telling you. Because sometimes even just ask me, hey, what I'm hearing is X, Y, and Z. And I feel like that's so validating for the person speaking too.
It is validating. What do you notice happens when you use their words to affirm what they just said? What do you see changing in them and you?
I think similar to what you said, I think it first builds trust. I think they trust, they empathize, they feel that someone's actually listening and it's affirming for them. But I think it truly, you could just see the walls coming down for a lot of people, and they'll become more vulnerable and share more. And you're able to have really an authentic and just honest conversation with someone. And it builds
Oh,
that trust. Even people that you may not necessarily get along with or connect with on a deeper level, something about that vulnerability just opens up that door to trust.
yeah. It's so true, right? And do you think too, we were talking earlier before we hit record, part of coaching and effective communications is building that connection. That's building trust and cultivating safety through listening well, through the active listening piece. But it's
Hmm.
also about maintaining presence and trying to build that connection. That isn't too hard for me, I'll be honest, because I had so much change growing up. Moved 10 times by the time I was 10, and I traveled a lot in my youth. And I actually really enjoy as a pastime talking to strangers. I try to talk to 1 to 3 strangers a day, even if it's a very short exchange. But
Hmm.
what about you? How do you, in your roles as global account manager now and previously in recruiting and other roles, how do you build trust and how do you build that connection, especially with a stranger?
For me, because I feel like in multiple at work, there's a volunteer board that I sit on, and I'm constantly meeting with new individuals there as well. I think for me is we always go into this where there's a commonality because of a working relationship or a common goal. But I think sometimes just removing that and remembering we are both human beings. We probably both are showing up shy, awkward, worried what we're going to talk about, what we're going to say. I think remembering that and staying vulnerable. Um, I think too, what helps is remembering the vulnerability that this person might be better at small talk than I am. But I think what's helped me a lot is just getting to know them. What are the human characteristics? Tell me about your family. How is there a way that we relate on a family level? A lot of strangers that I've connected with and am spoken to, just they have a similar bond that I've had with my grandma, where we usually hit it off over something that small, but it's such an impactful way that you can connect with someone and understand who they are. How about you? I guess when you're in this coaching world and you're meeting new clients, your day to day, you're talking to someone new. How do you usually go about it?
Yeah, I love what you said, Austin. I think I do similar things. I'm looking for that commonality. I'm remembering that we're both human. Sometimes one thing I did as a reporter actually helps me as a coach, whether it's a new client I've never met yet before or it's one
Hmm.
who's returning. I ask them, I pick up how they show up and how they come into the meeting. Whatever they say first, I pick it up and braid it into a question or a comment or a noticing. For instance, if someone comes in, "Oh, Debbie, I'm so sorry that I'm a couple of minutes late. It has been a day." I might ask, "Oh, not a problem. What's made it such a day?"
Yeah.
"Oh, well, there was this and that, and it's been back to back. What's it like for you when it's back to back?" And then they may share a little bit. I'll be like, "How do you want it to be?" So I'll
I like
use
that.
opposite sometimes. And failing that, like when I was a reporter and showing up in people's offices to interview them for stories I was writing for The Guardian or The Economist, or even as a field reporter, going out and just getting live reporting from strangers,
Hmm.
sometimes I'd connect with something about them. Like I'd ask permission first. And of course, I ask permission first to coach anyone, but I'd ask permission to ask a stranger to give me their thoughts on X. I think sometimes I'd notice something about them in the moment, like, "Well, you seem really excited," or "You've got a great smile on your face. What's brought the smile today?" Something like that even can help us connect because I think at the end
Yes.
of the day, most of us really love when someone pays attention to us or pays an interest in us with no agenda, no judgment, with
Yes.
kindness. So it's not just the words, it's how you're asking the words. And then if you're able to, getting back to that silence piece, have the
Mhm.
discipline to not fill it in like, "Oh my god, my day's been wild too," or "I'm smiling too, look at me." If we keep it not about us and just about them, even if it's just for a few seconds, you see this amazing shift in the person.
Yes.
They've
There's
received a
like a
question from someone who is genuinely interested and waiting for what they have to say.
yes. There's a shift, there's a vulnerability that comes to play, and I think that's what builds that trust, because that person is actually feeling wanting to be heard and understood and knowing how their day is going, especially when you can pick up that energy or you see they're struggling or they're, actively telling you, hey, this has been a really hard day for me. And
Mhm.
it's you're maybe that first person asking, what's going on? How can I help?
Yeah. So is it kindness too, what we're describing?
I think so. I think kindness, vulnerability, and just patience.
Yeah. Kindness, vulnerability, patience, curiosity, which you said earlier. I think
Hmm.
too, I've started writing this guide and it's in various forms of completion, different chapters here and there. I'll organize them all on Monday. But I started to unpack the different ways that we listen. All of us listen. And we may all listen in 10 different ways within one conversation. But the one form, several forms of listening are more likely to shut down a conversation and erode versus build that trust. And narcissistic listening is one of them.
Mm.
Like, oh, it's been a day. Oh my God, let me tell you about mine. Versus, it's been a day. What kind of day? Those kind of differences. And then there's passive and dismissive listening. It's been a day. Mm, kind of passive and dismissive, right? And
Yes.
then there's weaponizing aggressive listening. What about your day made it so hard? Don't you have the help you need? I saw you got an assistant. See the difference?
Yes.
So
Yes.
educating ourselves of the different ways in which we listen, all of us do it without judging or blaming anybody. We all do this. Has
Right.
been a really big breakthrough for me too on the way I want to listen, which is the active listening. Maybe not for the whole conversation, that would drive people crazy. But if you having some active listening, especially
Mhm.
at the beginning, can change the tone and the pace of a whole conversation and a meeting too.
100%, I agree with you on that, and I think there's so many of us that forget that. I have a question for you with that. Oh, you work with a lot of different clients, I'm sure in different ranges of levels, personality traits. How do you adapt if with those different personalities? Like when you're going into those sessions, not knowing possibly what to expect, especially if it's maybe your first one, how do you adapt and change that narrative?
Oh, that's a great question, Austin. Can I share a short story? Because I think it illustrates
Please.
what I've had to learn.
Yes.
So I have received in the past feedback that I'm too happy. And I really loved this feedback. I was working at a marketing agency at the time as a content writer. And at first I thought it was ridiculous and laughed about it with a friend on my walk at lunch. But afterwards I took it on board. I'm like, no, that's fair. I'm in a pretty gloomy office with some pretty gloomy people, and they may have some real life challenges that they're working through. So someone coming in really effervescent and peppy is probably really friggin' annoying. I need to modify. So I did. And when I started coaching, I entered the industry at a really strange time where I hit boom very quickly. I literally finished my certifications, two different major programs, and then BetterUp recruited me and headhunted me. Within a month, I had 100 clients. It was during COVID, and a lot of
Oh,
companies were investing in coaching at the time. And my niche as a communications coach was a very popular one. And then I'm an international, so I was interviewing, coaching a lot of international people. I came into one meeting really peppy, and the delightful Russian guy I was coaching went like
mhm.
this. He went with his hands, he went, meaning, bring it down. bring it
Wow.
down. And the egotistical part of me was mortified. Like, whoa. And we were regulars. We'd already coached 10 times or so. But I was able to get over that gulp moment to read him better and realize he was in a really foul mood and he was
Mm.
shaken and something bad had just happened. And he had come to the call despite that badness for help, for my counsel, for my coaching. So that moment really reminded me, come in neutral. Come in neutral as best as you can. You can still be yourself and neutral. I am a peppy,
Mhm.
happy, effervescent person, but I can be,
Yes.
Austin, how are you? Versus, Austin, how are you? Like I can bring it down.
Yes.
What say you? What's the same question to you when you
Oh.
come into different meetings, different stakeholders, different situations? How do you be you and how do you adjust when it's different to how you're feeling in the moment?
Oh, I think I can relate to because I think a quick backstory, I've been given feedback that might be too upbeat or positive for the current state or the mood of what people are in, especially if I've been early morning meetings. I'm a morning person.
Oh, that's
So,
so funny. That's another thing we have in common. We
yes,
should
there's
start a
so many.
hashtag. We should start a hashtag, too happy and happy about it.
Yes. We'll add like a morning pep in there too. Because I know even we've met at like 8:30 in the morning,
I
7:30
know.
your time, and we're ready to go.
I can remember some of those calls. That's hilarious.
Yes. But it's so funny because I feel like the same. It's and I wish I would have had someone that you've had on the receiving end where they're just tone it down because for
Yeah,
me it's I think the mirroring, picking up their body language, their type of engagement, especially if you're meeting with someone regularly, it's different times of day because there's some that I'm walking to her office to meet with and they're in a horrible mood. They barely want to meet with me. And I think it's important too in coaching in the professional world to acknowledge and say, hey, you don't seem in the greatest mood to meet right now. Let's get through with what we need to, and then I'll give you the time back and we can reschedule later. And I think sometimes it's just necessary to do things like that and acknowledge it rather than just avoiding the elephant in the room.
Austin, you're a coach before you know it. You could certify in a nano because that is exactly what they want us to do. The ICF wants us to notice without judgment.
Mm.
Notice without judgment.
And it can be hard sometimes.
Of course. What makes it hard for you? I know what makes it hard for me.
I think when you are not expecting it, we've talked about this before. I'm someone that usually tries to foresee what's to come and prevent and fix and be productive with those types of moments, and you can't always predict those is obviously what I've learned and what we've talked about. So I think for me it's just going in with a clean slate and expecting the unexpected and just rolling with it and going with the flow.
I agree. Going with the flow. That's the maintaining presence piece. Staying comfortable, navigating in that space of not knowing.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
it's
think the
hard. It takes
most.
practice. I think that's one reason why I like to keep the practice of talking to a stranger every day. It's like such a gentle and kind way to practice navigating that ambiguity because you're not going to see the stranger again.
Right.
You're indifferent. So
Yes. And it could have just
practice
made their whole
something.
day.
Exactly. You could make the whole day and you've got your practice reps in, like at the gym, building that muscle of being comfortable in that state of not knowing and building
Yes.
muscle in small talk. I'm managing our time. I know you've got to skip in a moment, but can I lop us one final question?
Please, please.
What do you do when you try to connect and there's just no similarity? And this question comes from a dear friend and client who one of many, she's in a new job. She loves the job, but she's struggling to connect with new colleagues. But I also have friends who struggle connecting when there's no similarity with family at extended gatherings. What do we do
Yes.
in that moment? What do you do, Austin?
I think for me, and this is something that's been helpful regardless of who that person is that I'm interacting with. It could be a stranger, or it could be someone that to spend an hour with that I've never met before. I think for me, what I'll usually do is feel them out. If they're not willing to bring up family or you're not going to connect on that level, hey, what are your plans for this evening after work? Or what did you do last night? How was your evening? Or how are you enjoying this weather? Do you like it? And I think something
Or
as small as that will start a bigger conversation because you'll find similarities that way.
that's so sweet. So you're still kind, you're still curious, and as part of that tactic, not absorbing or, not feeling bad that you're not connecting.
Yes. Yes. And I think too, I think it's important, especially with your friend, if they're in a virtual setting and they're not even in person with these individuals, I think sometimes it's just your instant messaging. You're sending a Teams or a Slack, maybe a fun GIF, seeing how they react, maybe from a TV show, seeing if they pick up on it. But it's something as small as that. I don't think it has to be this big invasive conversation or question, but you just start off with the basics and kill them with kindness.
Start with the basics and kill them with kindness. I love that, and I want you saying it that way too, Austin. I think one because there's been so much working from home and now people are having to work in an office, I think part of us is overthinking and putting a little bit too much pressure on ourselves to
Yes.
make whatever connection we lay down in front of the other person this amazing conversation that goes into hours. No, it can just be something small. It can be a
Yes.
compliment on what someone's wearing.
Yes.
And
One of the
go ahead,
basics is
sorry.
that. No,
I
no,
didn't
I
know
was gonna
that.
say, like, going back, I remember, like, early days, like, everyone talking sales that you what shoes are they wearing? And you start off a conversation like that, and sometimes that does open the biggest door to conversations. I've never asked that one, but I've been on the receiving end of it.
I think that's fantastic. I might use that one in the future. Austin Sussel, it has been a pleasure, a delight, and a riot having you with me today.
You too, Debbie.
Anything else you wanna say on conversation, connecting, whatever?
I think the biggest takeaway is you said it is build trust, active listen. I feel like we all forget that, especially this day and age being in a virtual setting. But thank you so much for having me. It's been a fine time and a pleasure.
Oh, likewise, Austin, you know I'm gonna invite you back.
I would love to. Let me know when. I would be more than happy to.
I would love that too. You take good care.
You too. Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, Austin. Bye.
Bye.